All right, looks like we got a video from Hale Shatar, and his this video is called "I'm Done with 4K Blu-ray." Let's check it out, see what he has to say about it.
Hey everybody, today I wanted to talk to y'all about why I plan to leave behind 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray as much as possible going forward in 2025. Now, I've been collecting 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray since 2019, and it's been a wonderful format. I've always put this over to a lot of my friends, especially when it comes to releases that get a wonderful new restoration that the previous Blu-ray did not have. A lot of instances, they go back to the original camera negative and really give the film its due diligence. And there are so many wonderful examples I can think of where the 4K release highly surpassed the Blu-ray release. But as time has gone on, diminishing returns have really been a recurring theme with me when it comes to this format. But there are just a lot of different issues I have with it, and I'm going to go over quite a bit of them. Now, you're seeing two different 4K releases on your screen right now. One being the brand new Seinfeld 4K Ultra HD Complete Series set, and one being the Turbine Media Book release for Pearl on 4K. Now, I've been going through the Seinfeld box set, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks great. It's a Sony release, so those are always done very well.
Real quick, I didn't know that Pearl got a 4K release. I only thought it was on Blu-ray. It must be like a more special release or something like that. But I've seen Pearl on Blue, and it looks really good. It looks like a 4K, so that's probably what he's going to be tackling. But interesting.
And this one is no exception. Now, I have had some problems with it, which I'll get into in just a moment. But the one I want to talk about right next to it is Pearl. Now, I bought this 4K Ultra HD release a couple of months ago. I put it in my player, and my first thought was, wow, this looks great. The Dolby Vision HDR really makes this film pop. I'm so glad I picked up the 4K. Two different instances while watching this movie, it freezed up. On one of them, it just kind of froze for a moment, and then it caught itself back. And then the next time, it just froze and went over about 10 seconds of the movie. Now, I looked at the disc, I inspected it, everything looked to be kosher. There was no damage, it was a brand new disc, there was no reason for this to be happening. But as I looked into it, a lot of people online will like to say things about how it's your player, you need to get a better player. And a lot of times they point to the Panasonic UB820 as a prime example of that. Now, I've contemplated getting this player a few times. It retails for about $400, so it's not exactly something I can just pick up on a whim. It's something that I have to work towards. But I've seen a lot of accounts from different people who seem to have the same issues that I'm having, even with their Panasonic model.
Most people will say the 820 is like the apex. Of course, there are technically better ones, but when it comes down to it, if you want like the best bang for not a ton of money, the 820 is usually the one that I would recommend myself. But like I said, there are also $100 4K Blu-rays you can find on eBay, and like I said, there's also $1,000 4K Blu-ray players you can find. So, you know, pick your poison, because once you dive in, for me anyways, when I just like dipped my toe into the 4K space, I was a believer, and I just kind of fell into it, and eventually ended up having like 1,200 some 4K Blu-rays in my collection. So it's a slippery slope, so be careful.
One person in particular, Spencer over at Damn Full Idealistic Crusader. He's somebody who does great due diligence when it comes to reviewing discs, and he has mentioned several times the issues he's had with his Panasonic player and having had to get it replaced and repaired, and it just seems that these issues are something that you can expect across the board. I'm sure there's going to be some people who are going to tell me that they've had zero issues with their 4K playback, and I'm really happy for you. It's not something I can relate to. It's an experience that I've had, and one that I just cannot see past at this point.
Real quick, so I can't pull it out right now, but I have like an LG 4K player. I'll find it if I can. I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. But I have an LG 4K player. It costs you about $120, and it has been able to do everything I wanted it to do since release. I think it's from 2019, so it's kind of like an older model, but I've yet to have any issues with it skipping or causing any problems. And like I said, it was only a $120 investment, so like I was expecting it to have glitches and skips. It's been doing great. So like I said, you don't have to go for the more expensive stuff. Go cheaper first, try it out, and then you can go from there and you could upgrade. Actually, my very first 4K player was my Xbox Series X, but there are some elements that the Series X can't do that like regular players can do. And a big reason for why I did upgrade is because like the Series X can do 4K Blu-rays, right? But what it can't do is Dolby Vision on a Blu-ray, which is strange because it can do Dolby Vision on like if you're streaming a 4K movie or TV show or something, which is odd. I still don't understand why that is the way it is. So I used my Series X to kind of dip my toe into the world of 4K with the Lord of the Rings 4K trilogy, and that kind of showed like what the potential of it was. And I just kind of went on and on, like I mentioned earlier, the slippery slope, and here I am today. But like I said, I just, you got to find deals. You got to keep an eye out for them, and you can really find some good deals in the 4K space, and not just the 4K movies, but in the 4K players too. So just keep an eye out. Don't just jump on something right away. Just be smart about your purchases, and yeah, you'll be all right.
The Seinfeld set in question, there have been a few instances where it froze, and this was thankfully alleviated by simply turning my player and turning it back on. Now, this is something that seems to happen. People talk about how you just need to recycle it real quick, and while that's something that's great that you can overcome, it's actually a really annoying thing to have to do when you're immersed in what you're watching. It's really fucking annoying. It's not something that I've ever had to deal with Blu-ray or DVD. Just today, I saw a number of people in the Vinegar Syndrome Collectors group on Facebook complaining about a few of the different new releases they received and how they were freezing, particularly the film Looking for Mr. Goodbar. As these people were listing their complaints about freezing and giving various timestamps where this was occurring, a lot of the replies, as you would expect from Vinegar Syndrome apologists, are that it's your player, you need to get a better player, you have a player that's inferior, it's going to do that, you got to get a better player. Well, Vinegar Syndrome decided that they needed to replace the disc and do a re-encoding of it. So again, while you may tell me that my solution is just to get a better player, even Vinegar Syndrome recognizes that this issue is widespread and is affecting a lot of their customers with their product. Another thing that really led me to the...
To be fair though, a lot of the times it is because people are using crappy players. It's not all the time. Obviously, sometimes it is actually disc-based, and we've seen this plenty of times throughout the last couple of years where they actually had recalls on certain films. In my experience, being in the 4K Blu-ray community for the last 5 years, it's usually the player. Like 80% of the time, it's the player. Something happened with the player, it's old, it's broken, remember there's moving parts in that thing, and things break. That's just the way it is. But like you mentioned, to be fair, there's still that 20% where it is the disc. It's the manufacturer not quality checking their work. So, that does suck, especially if like you imagine getting like your favorite movie on 4K and it not working. That would suck.
This was the recent announcement of the Reanimator 4K coming from the folks over at Ignite Films. Now, Ignite Films is a newer label to my understanding. The only release of theirs I'm familiar with is their Invaders from Mars release. And when they announced this, based on the literature on their website, it seems that this release is exclusive to their website. The list price for the standard edition release of this film, which is just one 4K disc, is $50. The box set version, which comes with a box, as well as a booklet, is $80. It also comes with a Blu-ray copy of the film, which is something I'll get into in just a moment. This price point is absolutely insane and not something I'm personally comfortable with going forward. It's not new. I'm not saying Ignite Films is the one who is instigating this, because a lot of labels have been slowly creeping up and charging higher and higher prices, capitalizing on collectors. Now, your mileage may vary on what you consider to be expensive and worth it, but for me, as someone who has had a bit of a unique perspective, as I talked about in previous videos, where during hard times in my past, I've had to sell my collection and then rebuild it, value is extremely important to me. Diminishing returns is something I have experienced far too many times, and I can definitely say that paying $50 for Reanimator in 4K when my umbrella release of the film is perfectly fine is not something I'm comfortable doing. Now, in spite of all this, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do not plan to ever buy a 4K disc again. There are about 20 to 30 films in my collection now that if they were to get a 4K announcement, I think that I may end up upgrading to it. An ideal situation, however, would be that the disc would come with not only a 4K, but a Blu-ray containing the current remaster that was done for the 4K. This is something you see across the board with releases from Scream Factory and Vinegar Syndrome. They'll put out a new 4K release with a brand new restoration and a Blu-ray disc with a 1080p representation of that very same restoration. Arrow Video, on the other hand, does not do this. Whenever Arrow Video puts out a 4K, for the most part, it will be a 4K disc only. They will also have a Blu-ray counterpart release of that, but for the most part, you cannot get a combo pack from Arrow Video releases. And I find this to be frustrating. There's a new release that they have coming out in February that I'm very interested in, which is their Cruising 4K. The thing that's unique about this release is it's likely going to have a remaster that is done without the William Friedkin revisions that were applied to the previous Blu-ray that Arrow Video put out. So for that reason, it is something I'm highly interested in. And I can say that for the most part, I don't really think I've had many issues with Arrow Video 4K disc in the past. At the end of the day, guys, this is what I can say. Maybe I do just have a shitty player. Maybe when I do buy a Panasonic UB820, these problems will not be present, regardless of the fact that I'm aware that a lot of people cite that these problems do occur on their Panasonic players. But the fact of the matter is that I'm not willing to put too much stock into this format going forward, especially when you have companies like LG announcing that they will no longer be making players, not too long after Samsung said this. As far as I know, the only people now that are making 4K players are going to be Sony and Panasonic. How much longer will it be before they stop making players? What happens after that? I have to go on the secondhand market and pay $1,000+ for a player because no one's producing them anymore? What matters the most to me in this collecting is the film itself. Of course, it would be ideal that I get to watch the film in its most purest, beautiful presentation. But I have to weigh the pros and cons and say, what is it that matters most to me? Do I need to have the super bougie 4K Ultra HD release of a movie? Will the Blu-ray be fine? Will the DVD be fine? For me personally, I can say a resounding yes. In most instances, I would say the Blu-ray disc or even the DVD will suffice. This format has produced some very wonderful releases that I personally treasure in my collection. But it is not a hill that I'm willing to die on at the expense of being able to enjoy my movies. So with that being said, in 2025, my intention is to buy as little 4K disc as possible. In a month from now, Kill Bill 1 and 2 are coming out in 4K. Now these are my favorite Quentin Tarantino films and something I've been looking forward to for a long time. But it dawned on me, why would I need to buy this? Why am I going to spend $50 on these movies when I already own them on Blu-ray? Blu-ray copies that I'm perfectly happy with. It's just...
Okay, so that's a lot to cover. Ultimately, what this section is about is the price of how 4Ks have kind of gone up. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now with tariffs and just different companies shutting down. And yeah, things are getting more expensive. And ultimately, what it comes down to, when you're collecting something like this, you have to make the best decision for what is best for you. If you are financially having issues, then don't spend the extra money for a 4K. Like take care of yourself first, take care of your family, take care of what other bills you might have or whatever. If you have that extra money to go for the 4K, go for the 4K. If you can only afford the blue, go for the blue. If there is a DVD variant and you really can only afford the DVD, I'd recommend maybe putting a little more money towards the blue. But if you actually have to just get the DVD, work within your budget. There's some people who don't even buy movies new at all. Like they wait like 5+ years for a movie to be out that long to drop down to like $5-10, and that's fine too. Ultimately, it's about just realizing what you can do, what you can't do, and working with that. That's ultimately the best advice I can give is when it comes to the 4K format is figure out is it worth your time and is it worth your money? And for some people, it isn't. But for a good amount of people, it is. People want the best. Like for my experience, I don't mind paying a little extra if I'm getting the best of the best version of a movie. And potentially the best version we'll ever get of said movie. Maybe eventually we'll get an 8K format down the line. Maybe not in disc form, but maybe some type of other form, whether that's on like a like a USB drive or something, who knows. But it's one of those things where, like, if I want the best of something, if I want a 4K version of something, like he mentioned the Kill Bills, this is an older video, so they've been out now for a while, but when the Kill Bills in 4K came out, that was a big deal for a lot of people because people have been waiting for those movies for a long time, and they've had some pretty nice Blu-ray releases, like he said. But the 4Ks are kind of like the end game to a lot of people, at least for now, like I said, until we get an 8K format. So it's understandable why some people would be super excited about those releases, because that's a big deal. I mean, even look like just like a year ago with Aliens, True Lies, and The Abyss, those movies had their issues. Ultimately, though, they are really good looking, and they are the end game to what these... To what those movies will see for now, right? So ultimately, what it comes down to, my advice when it comes to the price is work within your budget. If you got the money for it, get it. If you don't. It's that simple.
It's not truly worth it to me. With the Seinfeld box set in question, there was a very special reason to pick up the 4K set. The reason to buy the 4K set is because it's presented in its original aspect ratio. These are the kind of things that are important to me when it comes to my film collection. I want to be able to watch the movie as it's intended. And I don't think that the filmmaker's intention is for the film to freeze up halfway through and for me to have to restart my player just to keep it going. I treasure the intimacy of my film experience very deeply, and this is just not something I'm willing to continue gambling on. There are far too many films out there that I want to own, and I don't want to have to fight with my disc just to view it. I will say there are a small number of films that I could see myself wanting to upgrade to 4K just because of how much I love them. And when it comes to future releases, as long as there is a Blu-ray copy included with the 4K release, I'd be pretty open to buying it. Anyway though guys, thank you for listening to my rant on this. It's something that I thought quite a bit about and something that I feel pretty confident going forward with my collecting. Please feel free to share your thoughts and your opinions on this subject. And I just want to say this is probably my last video of the year. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, so definitely solid video. He makes some really good points. I can completely understand why you would want to get out of the game, especially when it comes to, like I mentioned earlier, the price. That's pretty much the bigger thing when it comes to this. Not all 4Ks are made the same, and that's the thing, is some 4Ks are amazing, and then some 4Ks are just kind of upscaled Blu-rays with like a not 100% perfect HDR on them, you know? I don't know. It like I said, ultimately it comes down to pricing. Figure out your budget. If it's worth it, go for it. Also, watch reviews from people who have already checked out the 4K and see if it's worth it, because a lot of those guys out there, they already covered a lot of this stuff and they will tell you the truth. But awesome video, Hale. Definitely check out his channel. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And make sure to like, subscribe, turn notifications for more videos. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Peace.